Welcome to the Vertical Sky Journal, the podcast that brings you everything you could ever want to know about Kilimanjaro. The climbing and the fitness, altitude and nutrition, the environment, the wildlife, and the people at the heart of the mountain. Today, the part of the journey where sensible people lose their minds? Packing. What you actually need for Kilimanjaro, what you can rent, and where not to waste your money.
Yes, the absolute minefield of packing.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, we are doing a deep dive today into what is arguably the most stressful part of the preparation. You are sitting at home, looking at your living room floor, and you are preparing to walk from a humid rainforest to a genuinely Arctic summit. And, well, you have to do it in a single week.
Which is a remarkable logistical puzzle.
Quite. And the internet really doesn't help here. You look online and you are immediately bombarded with these overwhelming 90-item checklists that just spark sheer panic.
Oh, absolutely. And outdoor gear shops are, well, they are utterly delighted to see you coming with those lists. They are eager to oversell you equipment you will never actually use.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to strip all of that noise away. We need to focus on what you actually need. And to do that, we first need to establish one fundamental idea about the mountain.
Yes, the organizing principle of the entire trip. Kilimanjaro is not a single environment. It is actually 5 distinct climates, essentially stacked on top of each other.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is, yes. You start in the rainforest, which is deeply humid. Then a few days later, you cross into the moorland.
And that's where the sun burns, but the wind has a real bite to it, doesn't it?
Exactly. Then you push higher into the alpine desert. That zone gives you wild temperature swings. You get blazing heat at midday and then freezing temperatures the absolute second the sun drops. And finally, you have the Arctic conditions of summit night.
So because you're crossing 5 distinct climates, you have to completely abandon the idea of finding the perfect jacket.
Spot on. There is no magic garment. The entire packing list comes down to a layering system. It's about layers you can add and shed as the mountain dictates.
Okay, so let's walk through that system. Where do we start?
You start right against the skin, your base layers. You need highly efficient, wicking thermal tops and leggings.
Right, and I have to jump in here and push back at a very common instinct. Because if you were starting in a humid rainforest, reaching for a light cotton t-shirt feels like the most natural thing in the world.
It does, but you must never bring cotton on this mountain.
Never. Because cotton holds sweat, doesn't it? It stays wet.
Exactly, it stubbornly refuses to dry. In the rainforest, you'll just feel a bit damp. But when you hit the alpine desert and the temperature plummets, that wet cotton turns into a cold compress against your skin. It is a genuine liability.
It turns a comforting fabric into something quite dangerous. So strictly wicking materials.
Yes, synthetic or merino wool. Then above that, you have your mid-layers. These are your trekking shirts and trousers, and a really good fleece.
A fleece is quite clever, actually, because it traps the warm air, but still lets the moisture escape from your base layer.
That's the exact mechanics of it, yes. And then finally, your outer layers. You need one highly insulated jacket. Down or synthetic is fine.
And a waterproof shell, right?
Absolutely. A waterproof shell jacket and waterproof trousers. You need those for the inevitable rainforest downpours, but also to block the biting wind higher up.
Now, I want to talk about summit night for a moment, because the reality of summit night often surprises people. You are waking up at midnight, and you are putting on almost every single layer you have packed, all at once.
Yes, and people often panic at that stage. They think, they think it's a failure in their packing. They assume they should have brought a massive, thicker coat.
But it's not a failure at all.
Not in the slightest. Wearing all your layers on summit night means the layering system is functioning beautifully. That is the exact design. You're using every gram of weight you carried to protect yourself.
It makes perfect sense when you look at it like that. So once the core is sorted with those layers, we have to look at the extremities, the head, the hands, and the feet.
Because that is where the fierce elements of altitude are felt most acutely. It's where you lose the most heat, and frankly, where a climb is most easily lost.
Let's start with the head and hands.
Right. Well, during the day, the high-altitude light is fierce. You absolutely need a sun hat and proper sunglasses.
To protect the eyes from the glare off the rocks and eventually the ice.
Yes. Then for the freezing nights, you need a warm beanie and a buff, which is a neck gaiter, to trap the heat around your collar.
And for the hands.
A 2-tier glove system. You wear thin liner gloves underneath thick, insulated outer gloves or mittens.
Because if you need to, say, open a water bottle in minus 15 degrees, you don't want to expose bare skin to the wind.
Exactly. You take the big mitten off, but the thin liner is still protecting your skin.
Brilliant. Now, the feet. I have to emphasize this. because this is the absolute non-negotiable rule of Kilimanjaro. Your boots must be broken in.
It cannot be overstated.
If you show up with brand new, stiff boots, that is the fastest possible way to end your summit bid. Debilitating blisters will literally stop you in your tracks.
They alter your gait. You start walking differently to avoid the pain, which exhausts other muscles, and eventually you just can't go on.
So wear them around the house, walk the dog in them, just break them in.
Absolutely. And bring several pairs of good hiking socks, along with a pair of trainers or comfortable camp shoes. Getting out of those heavy boots in the evening is pure relief.
It's the best feeling in the world.
Ah,
Okay, so you were dressed correctly. The next puzzle is how all this gear travels up the mountain. And this brings us to the carrying kit.
yes. Your luggage is strictly divided into two distinct bags, governed by a very rigid weight limit.
Right, so let's talk about the big bag, the duffel.
This is a 70 to 90-liter soft duffel bag. The crew carries this one for you from camp to camp.
And there is a strict 15-kilogram limit on this bag. I really want to pause on this because people sometimes get frustrated by it, but it is there for a vital reason.
It is an enforced porter welfare rule.
Exactly. We weigh these bags strictly out of respect for the crew carrying them. They are working incredibly hard at altitude, and we have an ethical duty not to overload them.
Quite right. So the heavy gear goes in the duffel, under 15 kilos. Then you have your day pack.
Would you carry yourself?
Yes, a 30 to 35-liter day pack. It holds your water, snacks, a camera, your waterproofs, and warm layers for the day.
Now, there are a few vital gear additions we should mention here, things that are essential for the climb.
Well, firstly, a 4-season sleeping bag. It needs to be rated to around -10 degrees or colder. These are not generally included on climbs, but you can easily rent them.
Which we'll talk about shortly, the rentals. What else?
Trekking poles. They are absolutely essential for saving your knees on the descent. And a head torch with spare batteries, because summit night happens in the pitch dark.
Right. Now, I want to ask you about the hydration challenge. We tell people they need 3 liters of water capacity.
Yes, keeping hydrated is critical for acclimatization.
But here's the thing. On summit night, you're looking at Arctic conditions. If I'm using one of those 3-liter water bladders with the plastic hose, surely that hose is just going to freeze solid in the wind.
It absolutely will. The bladder hoses freeze very quickly near the top. You'll go for a sip and just get a block of ice.
Which is a disaster when you desperately need water. So how do we solve that?
This is exactly why an old-fashioned insulated water bottle earns its place in your pack. You combine the hydration bladder for the lower, warmer days with an insulated bottle for summit night. It keeps the water liquid when you need it most.
That is such a vital detail. Okay, so moving on from the heavy gear, let's talk about the small essentials, the little things that actually save the climb.
With the heavy gear sorted, success really does come down to these small items tucked into your day pack.
Let's start with health and hygiene.
High-factor SPF sunscreen and a good lip balm are mandatory. The sun at altitude is entirely merciless.
Because there's less atmosphere to filter the UV rays, right?
Exactly. You also want a blister kit, your personal medications, and earplugs.
Ah, the earplugs. People don't realize how noisy a mountain camp can be, with hundreds of people in tents flapping in the wind.
It can be deafening. For hygiene, you need wet wipes and hand sanitizer. That is essentially your mountain bath for the week. And dry bags are crucial.
Just to keep your warm clothes safe from the rainforest downpours.
Yes, you compartmentalize your duffel with dry bags.
Now, what about technology? Everyone wants to take photos at the summit, but the cold just completely kills batteries.
It does. You must bring a power bank. But the specific trick for summit night is keeping your phone in an inside pocket, close to your body heat. If you leave it in an outer pocket, the cold will drain it before you even reach the rim.
Right, keep it warm. Now let's talk about snacks, because this is fascinating. You are burning an incredible amount of calories on this trek.
You are.
But altitude completely kills your appetite, doesn't it? You get to camp and you just don't want to eat.
It's very common. Your body is prioritizing oxygen for vital functions, and digestion takes a back seat. So you have to force calories down.
Which means you shouldn't pack random energy bars that you've never tried before.
No, absolutely not. Pack familiar snacks that you genuinely love, things you would eagerly eat at sea level.
And there's one specific snack that works wonders here, isn't there?
Yes, crystallized ginger. It is brilliant. It provides a great hit of energy, and it doubles as a natural settler for altitude nausea. It's the ultimate dual-purpose snack.
I love that tip. Right, so we've covered what to bring. Which naturally leads us to the section that the gear shops are not going to sponsor.
It's anti-list.
Exactly. What not to buy and when to rent, because you really want to protect your wallet and your 15-kilo duffel limit.
We have to dispel some gear shop myths here. First of all, do not buy technical gear.
So no mountaineering boots.
No heavy, rigid mountaineering boots, no crampons, no ice axes, and absolutely no ropes.
Because Kilimanjaro is a walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a very tough walk, but it is not a technical climb.
Spot on. It's an endurance trek. You also don't need top-of-the-range expedition-level jackets. Mid-range gear successfully summits this mountain every single day.
And you definitely don't need a huge wardrobe.
No, 2 or 3 rotations of trekking clothes washed by hand and aired out easily beat packing 7 different outfits.
Now what about gadgets? People love a gadget.
Avoid them. Solar showers, GPS watches, espresso kits, they just consume your 15-kilo limit and offer very little in return.
A solar shower at freezing altitude sounds entirely miserable anyway.
It truly does. So the investment rule is simple. Spend properly on only 3 things.
Boots, sleeping bag, and insulated jacket.
Exactly. Those are the items that keep you safe and warm. Everything else can be standard. And that brings us to the 2-year rental test.
This is a great rule of thumb.
Yes. Quality gear, like thick down jackets, the -10 sleeping bags, duffels, and trekking poles, they are all easily rented in Moshi and Arusha before you start the climb.
So the golden rule is, if the item is not going to leave your cupboard again within 2 years, rent it. Save the money for the actual trip.
It makes complete financial and logistical sense.
It really does. So to summarize the honest truth of all this, the perfect Kilimanjaro packing list is much, much shorter than the internet claims.
Considerably shorter.
It prioritizes versatile layers over expensive gadgets. It demands boots that are thoroughly broken in. A duffel bag kept strictly under 15 kilos, out of absolute respect for the person carrying it.
And a pocket full of familiar snacks for the night that matters most.
Exactly. Everything else is just detail. Before we wrap up, there's one final thought I want to leave you with regarding that 15-kilo limit.
Oh.
Well, we live in a world of endless material comforts, don't we? Wardrobes full of choices, cupboards packed with things. But when you go to the mountain, you are forced to strip all of that away.
You reduce your entire life to a few carefully chosen layers.
Right. And there's a profound psychological freedom in that. When you don't have to decide what to wear or which gadget to look at, the mental clutter just vanishes.
That's a rather beautiful way to look at it.
You realize how little you actually need to be content. And it frees you up to just walk and breathe and actually experience the mountain.
It does. The less you carry physically and mentally, the more you take in.
Spot on. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, do subscribe so you never miss the latest from the Vertical Sky Journal. You will find a full written version of this episode over on our journal at vertical-sky.com, and we would love you to come and say hello on Instagram, where we are at VERTICALSKYTZW. Until next time, pole, and keep dreaming of the mountain.